Hey guys, this is New Sensei. Many people would know that getting into archery can be quite expensive. We're talking about buying the bow, buying arrows, buying accessories, lessons, range fees, membership fees, and suddenly this impulse, it turns into a much bigger commitment. Which isn't a bad thing, by the way. But many people will probably want a nice teaser before they get into archery as a long-term commitment. So it's not unusual for a lot of people to think about getting the cheapest possible bow online, and that's typically a fiberglass recurve. Most fiberglass recurves are designed for young people, like kids, but you can also find adult-size fiberglass bows. And they're really cheap. We're thinking about things like the Barnett Sport Flight, which you can buy from Walmart for $50. You can find the Barnett Little Sioux for like $30. That's a whole kit, looking at the bow, couple of arrows, and some other things. So these can be very attractive for young shooters and adults who want to try archery for the lowest possible cost. This video will look at youth bows and help you decide whether they are the right option for you. The particular bow I'm reviewing is the Martin Cobra. This was donated by Archery Supplies in South Australia. Archery Supplies sells the Martin Cobra for $65 Australian. Martin is a repeatable brand, and many well-known bow manufacturers such as Bear will manufacture similar junior bow kits. The Martin Cobra kit is typical of pretty much every junior bow. It promotes itself as being the perfect bow for young archers, specifically aimed at ages 6 and up. In fact, there are different available sizes, this one being the 44-inch Cobra model. This 9-piece kit has everything needed to get straight into doing some archery. It has a small fiberglass bow with an attached wrist sling, a simple plastic finger tab, an arm guard, a small belt quiver, belt not included, and 2 fiberglass arrows. You might be wondering, hold on, that's 7 items. The other 2 items are actually the 2 targets printed on the back. Cheeky. The bow itself is a standard fiberglass bow. If you've used one, you've used them all. Essentially, it functions as a bow, but don't expect it to perform very consistently or competitively. The string is made from paracord, which is another sign that you shouldn't try to use this as a serious bow. The arrows are generic and feature blunt metal points, which is appropriate for young children. The vanes are plastic, which isn't great for shooting off a bow like this, but again, for children it doesn't really matter. The string doesn't have a knocking point. This means that the arrow will slide up and down the string, which can make it hard to consistently nock the arrow and shoot straight. You can add one yourself, or leave it out, as your child probably isn't going to worry too much. However, this is probably going to be the main reason why the arrows will fly randomly. The bow has a very low draw weight, 10 to 20 pounds, depending on how long your arms are. As an adult using a short bow, I'm going to reach the high end easily. Now, if you're wondering what to shoot at with these targets, these bows are very low powered. They're about 10 pounds. At full draw, at my draw, it's around 20 pound. But for most kids, you can get away with using something like a cardboard box. Just stick the target onto a cardboard box. If you feel like you need a bit more padding to stop the arrow going through, then you can put in things like old clothes. Just pack a box for old clothes. And that should be sufficient for a backyard target for your 6-year-old. Do bear in mind that this is not a toy. You can do damage with it, so make sure you're not hitting people, pets or property. Now, using this bow, it's actually a lot more fun than I thought it would be. It's like, I guess when you spend a lot of time shooting high-end equipment, when you have your Hoyts and Win and Fredbears and all that, you kind of forget what it's like to start out and shoot your very first youth bow. And I didn't start with one of these, but going back down to one of these is actually quite challenging. One, it's very light, but shooting light bows in general is very fun and relaxing. And again, I think if you're the sort of person who gets a big thrill out of shooting heavy draw weights, then the light draw weight can catch you off. But it's also just fun. There's no stress. You're not trying to fight the bow. It's really just wham and shoot. So it's actually not a bad bow. Performance-wise, then expected to hit tight groupings, even at 3 meters or 5 meters. The arrows and the bow don't match. They're mainly there just to get you shooting in the general direction of the target, but then expect to group with it. I'm not a bad shot. I'm not a great shot. I'm not a bad one either. But trying to aim at the same point, you just don't expect the arrow to go to the same place. A couple of reasons. One, there's no knocking point on the string. You can put one on, but that's a big variation because the way the grip works is a bit of an incline. So sometimes you go upwards, sometimes you go downwards. So that's something you can remedy, but there's one factor behind arrows going everywhere. But more importantly, the fiberglass arrows aren't spined correctly. They're just arrows, not really meant to come out really cleanly, and not from a bow like this. But just too much variation for an arrow to fly properly. So you will find a lot of fishtailing. So even though you are trying to hit the middle, you won't. And that's actually one of the main reasons why you shouldn't be getting one of these as a serious bow, because it won't allow you to grow. I've had some people mention that maybe they might buy one of these to practice form. Yeah, you can practice form with these bows. Even the paracord string is actually not that bad. It's not Dacron and it's not fast flight, but for this bow, it behaves a way a bowstring should. So it's actually the right kind of stretch and flex. But it's not as consistent, but that isn't the point. As I said before, if you're looking at practicing form, then this is, I wish you wouldn't recommend this. The reason is, well, yes, you can practice form with this kind of bow. It's not going to reward you for good form. The bow itself is a bottleneck. The arrows and the bow itself and the string won't allow you to achieve tight groupings. No matter how hard you try, no matter how good your form is, you simply won't get that consistency with this bow. So I would only really recommend this for young kids. I'm talking about the 6-year-olds, the 8-year-olds, the 10-year-olds maybe. The ones who, I think as a parent or as someone buying a bow as a gift for kids, you have to judge how serious they are likely to take the sport. The comparison is whether you want to go for a one-off $20 archery lesson or buy a $20 kit. That's really the decisive factor. I'm not going to gender stereotype here. It's mostly what you think is most appropriate for the child. If you can sense that certain children are going to be obsessed with archery, then you might want to actually skip the youth bow stage, take them to the range, and get them interested in their own kit. I'm thinking about this, alright? So you have a choice between spending $30 on this or $100 on this. Okay, that's a pretty big difference. This is the difference. Okay, I know this is more expensive. I know this one's going to cost more of the accessories and the arrows, but this will last for years. This may be the only bow you buy if you're not thinking about doing competitive shooting, but this bow will enable you to achieve far more. This can be your youth bow. I mean, this is big, I know, but you can buy 54-inch models. You can buy much smaller versions, much lighter versions. But a bow like this, a typical takedown recurve, will cost you around $100 US, $130 US, just for the bow itself. And this is fun to use. Kids will go, wow, this is a real bow. This is a toy. And that's a huge determining factor. If your child is likely to really get a kick out of using this, then I think it's worth going for this. This is something you can take to the range, you can learn with, you can grow with. And as you become better at archery, you'll replace the limbs, you might replace the bow, but it's something which it feels like you're doing real archery. This is definitely a toy feel. It's not a toy, but it feels like one. It has that plastic look and feel. It's bright and colourful. Now, if your child is someone who wants to do a bit of shooting for fun, something you take off the backyard for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just to pop a target, then yeah, this is the right thing to do, because if you know your child is unlikely to take archery seriously, and you don't want to spend hundreds on a bow they won't use, then yeah, this is designed for you. But if you are going for the serious archer, someone who is likely to go outdoors with you, someone who is likely to spend a lot of time taking archery seriously as a way to grow, then I would skip this step. There are a couple of frustrating factors with these bows. Like I said before, the arrows don't come up very cleanly, so don't expect these bows to perform precisely. And for people who get rewarded by hitting bullseyes and shooting really accurately, then this bow won't really achieve that. It's more like I can shoot rather than I can shoot accurately. Couple of things as well. Firstly, because it is shot off the shelf, you may find that the arrows, especially if you don't lock it correctly, will come very close to your hand. The plastic veins may graze against your hand, which may cause discomfort, especially for a young archer. The fact that you only have 2 arrows is also a slight frustration, at least for me. I'm used to shooting 6 arrows or 10 arrows, so kids have infinite energy, so 2 arrows is okay. They'll shoot, they go and get them, and then shoot again, so it's okay. But if you want them to shoot for a long period of time, then that may be something which can be frustrating. The tab, by the way, is absolute garbage. This is like the worst tab I've used. It's like leather, it's all fur, it's just like plastic, so it feels wrong. You can't get it around the string. I reckon this will crack and break within a few weeks or months. So overall, I think the youth fiberglass bows do okay for what they're meant to be for. I would still rather, if I had the option, go to an introduction session at an archery club or range, because that would give you the full rundown of what archery is. You use real equipment, real arrows, and you get trained by instructors who are qualified. So it's safe and it's very immersive and it's very challenging. And that might be the same cost as one of these bows. This kind of bow is good if you don't have access to a range. If you have a young child who might not be interested in archery in the long term, and it's something you can keep around in the back room, in the backyard, to have the occasional fun. But I think the older you get, I'm thinking about like once you reach 10 years old, you don't really want to use these bows because it frustrates you. You know you can do better, so you don't want to use this bow because it doesn't feel satisfying, because you're not hitting goals. If you're not doing it for that reason, then it's okay. You just like plonk targets and miss half the time. But yeah, if there's any inkling that you want to take archery seriously, then don't buy this bow. Anyway, this is New Sensei. Hope you find this interesting. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.